Good morning, Club Ministry leaders. Lisa Vernon here, starting my new series of Fireside Chats. So, this is episode number 1 of the new series, and we're going to jump right into it here. So, the series here is about running a good club. And so we're going to start step 1. Step 1 for running a good club: Adventure Club, Pathfinder Club, Master Guide Club. It doesn't matter what kind of club you're running. And for my friends who are doing BSA and Girl Scouts, even for you guys, the first step is the initial planning. Okay, I know way too many leaders who just jump right in. Sometimes they think they have it all together because of their experience. They just run in, but they're not as experienced as they think they are. Or they don't have the experience to know what to do in the right order and stuff. And the first most important thing to do is make certain your church or sponsoring group, you're on the same page with them. You need to sit down with your pastor and say, okay, the church board asked me to be the director for this next year, or I was nominated to the nominating committee to be the director next year, or maybe you're coming to church and your church doesn't have a club, and you're like, hey, I would like to be the director of a club here for this next year. And that's the beginning. And you need to find out what the church vision is with your club. And you need to share your vision back the other way, because if these visions don't line up, you are just sowing the seeds for headaches later. I got clubs where the pastors have one idea, or the board has one idea, the director has a different idea, and then they jump in and start doing it, and then they realize they're not on the same page. It starts creating headaches. One of my least favorite things that have happened to me is have a church call me and say, we're having issues, can you come to our next board meeting? Or we're having an emergency board meeting and we need you there because we're having problems with our club ministries. And we need you to tell us what we're doing wrong, or what we need to do, or how to resolve this. It's never, ever, ever fun. Ever. I've never shown up and had cookies and ice cream and juice at a board meeting and had them say, hey, surprise, we're doing well this year. Just wanted to let you know. No. You show up and there are people sitting on your side of the table glaring at each other, and you're like, oh, what have they done this time? Right? And I usually show up with my manual and I just quote the manual. That's all I do. I think, manual says this, manual says this, manual says this. Have you read the manual? That's my most common response to that question is like, have you read the manual? And my next piece of advice is read the manual. Okay, you get with your church board and you go, this is how it's been in the past, and you go, this is the new life I'd like to bring to the club. I'd like to bring in these ideas. And you had the discussion before you even talk to a single child in your church. I mean, a month or more before club starts. If your conference, you're like September 1, August 1, January 1, whatever your cycle starts where you are in the world, a month before that or more, you need to have a conversation of what it looks like in your church, right? And if you're a returning director, you've been a member of the club for a long time, you have a pretty good idea. But if you're starting a club, you need to know, because some churches have some very different ideas of what a club should be. And there might need to be some education. I got way too many churches who still think adventurers are junior pathfinders and the parents don't need to be involved. Drives me absolute batty, right? They haven't read the manual, they haven't updated things, they're still treating it like it's 1980, and yeah. And they're so out of touch. And there's some training that has to happen. That happens then with your church. Your church board, your pastor needs to know this is how it is. And I find we got a lot more pastors, from other places in the world The NAD seems to be a little short on some of our own homegrown pastors who grew up doing Pathfinders in, Mid-America or something. And, good old pastor from Iowa is not what you're likely to get anymore. You're going to get a pastor who speaks good English from somewhere else, because there's other places in the world where they're generating pastors, and now we're having to, I was talking to one guy who said the new mission field for the world is North America. I was like, isn't that scary, right? The new mission field is America. And so they have different ideas of what Pathfinders is from where they are to what we do here in NAD. And if you're watching this video elsewhere in the world, you have your own traditions, right? Know what you're doing in your area first. And update, okay? If you got a pastor who just came in from Australia, they don't even call all the venture classes the same, right? They don't. They have one class completely named differently. Let them know. There's classes. I sat down with a group from Africa, and we were comparing coursework. They just came off, into North America. They're refugees, and they didn't Pathfinders where they were from, and they had the sense to ask me, how do we do this in North America? And because they'd seen some other clubs were doing stuff differently than what they were used to, as they've been church shopping around looking for where they'd fit in. And so I was sitting with their community leaders, and like, okay, and they had their old books. They brought their books, language, couldn't read it, but we'd turn the pages, like, okay, this is the same. He read it, this says this. I'm like, okay, that's what ours does. This says this, that's what ours does. This is what this is. Oh, that's a little different. Okay, this is what ours says. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Why do you guys do it that way? Like, I don't know, actually. Or, like, that's how we always done it. Yeah, well, when we revised ours from the AY curriculum to the Investor Achievement, they made some changes. Like, okay, they still had drill as a requirement in theirs. We don't. I think we should still have it, personally, but I like drill. But, there's little differences, right? Just nothing big, nothing to fight over, but something to be educated about, right? And so there was a good, healthy discussion, and that's what you need to have. You and your church needs to have on the same agreement, same understanding. You need to know the rules as set out by the local conference, union, division, right? Most of the NAD unions don't have too many special rules. I've heard of a few, but most of the rules you're going to find are either a conference thing you need to deal with or a division thing. Conference things, of course, are going to be your paperwork, what they expect of you, how often your background checks are done, because sometimes different state laws affect that, depending on what state you live in, right? NAD standard, I think, is every 3, but like California is every 2, right? You got to know your laws, right? And then what paperwork your conference is going to need from you. You're going to start getting that all together. This is all before we see a kid. We talk to the church board, the pastor. We start getting our paperwork and our ducks in a row. This is the pre-club, get it ready, right? Most of them are going to require you to do the charter, need the board signature, the pastor's signature, or whatever your conference requires. They have a form for it, right? You talk to your area coordinator, who will be your area coordinator, find out who they are. Hey, we're starting a club over at the Hallelujah Church, right? And we're going to, this is what we're looking at doing. What do I need to know? The area coordinator will love to just come spend an afternoon with you and like, hey, let's get it going, right? And they're going to get it all lined up. Like, okay, this is what the conference is expecting. Most conferences have a monthly report, so they'll probably show you that, where to file it. Most conferences have a website now. for their club ministries. So they'll show you where it is. Back in the day, you signed up your thing, and the conference sent you a handbook like that thick, right? This is this year's book. Oh man, the biggest I ever saw was Michigan's. That thing was an inch, a solid inch. That was impressive. But it had all the forms you were going to fill out for the whole year. You took one out, filled it out, mail it in, right? Had the rules for Camp Ree, the rules for the fair. Most conferences have that on their website, so you need to know the website, right? Because that's where everything's going to be. You're going to go there. It'll all be there. If they don't have the new stuff posted for everything for the year, what you need to get started will be there, okay? And just wait for the other stuff to come along, like Camp Ree and stuff. But it'll be there. The stuff for Bible games are going to be there. It's all there. Get familiar with it. Read through it. Find the tabs. Look for where do you file your report. Who's the list of the conference officials in charge of club ministry? Just find them all. Save their emails into your address book, right? Just all that stuff. You're going to spend several days working on that before you do anything else, okay? I talked to so many clubs, and they're like, we didn't know this is happening. We didn't know that. When was this happening? Or when's this happening? It's in the handbook. Oh, the handbook? Yeah, it's on our conference website. The website? They don't know we have a website. They don't know we have a handbook. They didn't know the conference was having a beginning of the year meeting to tell everybody what's going on this year. You need to plug yourself in. That is the second. First, get your church together. So sit down with the leaders, come to an agreement on what it's going to look like. Second, be plugged into the conference. Make sure you know everything. If they have a WhatsApp channel, you signed up. If they do a Facebook page, you've liked it. You're following it. Whatever your conference has going, just plug in solid. Okay? Next thing. Okay? And we're going to try to keep this part of the video pretty short. This is just the pre-work video, okay? This is just a video just what to do before we even start. Is make sure you're read up on the new stuff. So, sorry, my arm is still stiff. I had a surgery there, so hard to reach. This is the new Pathfinder Club handbook. This is the NAD handbook. So most divisions will have a handbook, or the GC will have they have a handbook. Every conference has a handbook. Some unions have a handbook. This is the one you're going to get from Advent Source, NAD. Okay, this is the one you want, unless you're in Central America or something. Get whatever they tell you to get. Right, get the local book. That's the point. All right. The old director's guide has technically this replaces it pretty much. There's still a few things in it which are really handy, so don't throw it away. Okay, I keep mine on a shelf. I actually collect them, and every one of them, you compare to them, has stuff which the new one doesn't have. And there's stuff that's just outright updated. You're like, okay, new child guidance standards, new bullying standards, right? But sometimes there's just pieces of information that just don't get put in the new one, and you read that and oh, that's brilliant. I like that. Or, oh, well, that explains that. Just every book doesn't always cover the same material. So don't just throw away the old book, but make certain you have the new book, right? And then don't just make sure you have the new book. Make sure you have like corresponding books, like your TLT book. Class books are good to have. They got a bunch of new little booklets from Advent Source, like just one topic focus books. Those are good to collect those too, like uniform, drum corps. Perfect things to get, right? Get the whole collection. Spend some time reading them. Really look through how to start your club, the beginnings, what you need to get going. That's what you're looking for. You just want to read through it, become very familiar with it. Very, very familiar. 90% of your questions are going to get answered right here. And being familiar with it is going to save you just so much headache. And it also helps when dealing with your pastor, your church board, because sometimes they go, well, where we were, this is how it was done. You had a head elder that says, yeah, I'm from Kenya, and this is how we did Pathfinders, and I'm looking at what you guys are doing just doesn't look right to me. You're like, oh, I know, it's different everywhere. And your question about what the kids were doing is answered on page 9 right here. Let me share it with you, and they can look at it and go, okay, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. Right? I had a pastor from, where was he from? He was from Venezuela. I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking adventures, actually, not Pathfinders, but still club ministries. And he's like, this is just not how we did it where we're from. I'm like, that's okay. Celebrate how it was done where you were from. Just try to follow the new rules and stuff and whatever's different here. And he's like, okay, not too hard. Where do I find all the new rules? And I'm like, well, we have, and I showed him the Adventure Director book. And yeah, he's like, oh, perfect. Do you have it in Spanish? We absolutely do. And I left him buying a copy because smartphones, we shop anywhere, right? He's like, I'm buying myself a copy, and I'm going to know all about this. I'm like, that's how it's done, right? We just share and we update ourselves. But he was just so like, whoa, there's just so many differences. It was just blowing them away, all the differences from one place to another. And that is perfectly okay. But the most important thing, though, like I said, is have the discussion now. Find out your differences, where you agree, what you want. And there's some other things that don't even have to do with cultural cross borders. Sometimes it's just church management. Like, I have pastors like, okay, when we do Pathfinder Sabbath, I'm going to replace children's story time and one special music, and you're going to be allowed to present the Pathfinders to the church, and then we're going to move on. You're like, oh man, that's all I'm getting. And I got other pastors who go, okay, we're going to be doing induction this Sabbath. I hope you have the whole program, right? Special music. And they're going to start doing it on the list. They want your Pathfinders doing the offering, special music. Do they got Pathfinder ready for a sermonette? Does he have to help write one with the Pathfinder? I mean, the pastor's going to be all like in. And he's going to be asking you questions you haven't even thought of yet. Like, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do this, we're going to do this. And I got my old uniform, and I'm going to be here. I'm going to be supportive. And I mean, the whole service, I could write a special sermon just for the kids, or could a kid write a sermon? Is one of the staff going to do a sermon? You got they're 100,000% in, right? But every church has a different expectation. And if you're not on board with it, it causes trouble. Especially like you move to a new church and they don't have a club right now, but they had a club, and you're like, okay, can I do the new club? And you come from a church where they did everything or nothing. It doesn't matter what. And the new church has a different vision of what they're doing, and either it's overwhelming, you're like, I can't do all this. You guys, man, my old pastor barely let us say a prayer, and to doing everything, and you're just like, oh, I can't handle this much, right? You got to understand what the church wants from you and how much you can give. And so you can start planning now, because in August, and you're planning for all that a few months from now, it's not a big deal. But if you start the Pathfinder year, you're already moving, you got the kids signed up, and you're like, okay, we're doing investiture next Sabbath, and you talk to the pastor and the board, and they suddenly give you a list a mile long of what you want to do. Oh my. Or you start giving the kids 1,000 assignments, getting them ready. We're doing Pathfinder Sabbath next Sabbath, and we're going to do this and this and this. Because when I was a kid, we did all this stuff, and it was so awesome. And you go to talk to the pastor, like, okay, we're getting ready for Pathfinder Sabbath. And we're going to, and the pastor's like, okay, could you guys just do a special prayer dedication? And you're like, but we were going to, that's all I'm in a series on Revelations right now, and I don't want to interrupt it for, a kids program right now. And it's, let's try to keep this civilized. We should respect the sanctuary. I don't want this turning into a big party. Let's keep it settled. And you're like, oh, you're just like crushed, right? Because you remember it like being this huge thing. You get the flags and the banners. We're going to march in. Be on the same page with your church. That is the thing you take away from this whole thing. Be on the same page with your church. Make sure you've read the current book. Get with the conference on your paperwork. Know what you're going to need to do. And this is before staff meeting number 1. And that's going to be my next topic, is staff meeting. So, from my campfire to yours, get familiar with your church, what you need to do for your church, what's in the book. Get yourself ready. Communicate with your church. All right. Talk to you later.